I went to last night. Zach Butters is the spirit animal for this Port Adelaide side, and I know we're going to talk about Port Adelaide in a moment in a big way. And you could have gone Rosie, and I love Georgiades as well, but this is the bloke. I mean, he's the one that gets them started. He's in everything. He gets involved in everything, Gerard. He gets involved in everything that ends in a score. He had 11 score involvements from his 33 touches. He gets involved in every blue that's out there on the ground, and he looks like he's enjoying it as much as anyone else. So I just love what he's able to do. So he gets the 2.
Who gets the 3?
I had to go back to Thursday night because Paddy Dangerfield just went whack, and still side on the night after the older blokes are having some sort of season. And I think there's a fascination with this. I can't remember who it was, so I apologise. The Herald Sun the next day drew the comparison with Patrick and maybe Lee Matthews, the greatest of all time, who finished his career out of the goal square and wreaked as much havoc as he did forward of the ball as he did in the middle. And that's saying something for Lee, and it'd be saying something for Patrick as well, who's been a wrecking ball in the middle. But if he goes forward now and becomes a 50, 60 goal kicker, wow, what a career he's had. So there you go. That's
we have ourselves the making of a leaderboard now. Patrick Dangerfield 6,
I don't
Toby
want to look
Green
at that
4.
leaderboard. There's too much pressure on it, Gerard.
From about halfway through the year, we might keep it away from
get
you.
rid of it.
But
That's
for the
right.
moment, it's in its formative stages. All right, we've got ourselves a leader. Let's get into it. And the agenda begins where the round ended, the main event of Gather Round. And it defied all expectation and prediction. For all the hype that was, nobody was predicting Port out by 70 plus at one stage on a night that might get the power going.
Look, it's moving. It's alive. It's alive.
The goals are coming from everywhere, in every way. And the scoreboard is quite astonishing.
If you're Sam Mitchell and you're trying to fix, there's just too much going wrong at the moment.
They have electrified the Gather Round crowd. Oh, I think it's got there. And this is barely believable. Where are you, Hawthorn?
It's not what was billed.
They are rampant. They are everywhere.
Where you been hiding this stuff, Kenny?
The margin is 69 points.
This has been some sort of performance.
This has been an absolute smacking.
Been the perfect night for Port Adelaide. And uncanny Kenny, he's done it again. Power Pepper, he's going to wow the crowd.
It's a power-packed close to Gather Round. It came with a dose of shock and awe.
Where did we go wrong? They obviously taught us a bit of a lesson.
We needed to win round 5, Gather Round at home, and Hawthorn were the opponents. It was a big ask, but we found a way.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
A good dose of shock therapy to get it all going.
I like it.
All right, we start on the positive with Port Adelaide. That's the performance in a lot of ways that we've been waiting for.
Well, that's more like it. That's what I got out of that, because being in Adelaide for the last 5 or 6 days, we engaged in a lot of discussion about Port Adelaide. A lot of people said, you've been harsh on Port Adelaide. Well, we talked about the worst contested possession numbers, the worst that puts all those debates to bed, because that's what we've been wanting to see. You go, OK, this succession plan hasn't worked, or on the surface it's been slow out of the blocks. That then goes, oh, we'll just push that aside. Not forever, because it'll come back at some stage unless they are able to replicate it. But absolutely all the flowers to them. And the role that Ken had in it, I don't know. Well, he cops it in the neck when they lose, so you've got to give it all to him when they win.
Yes, he clearly had a massive role in it. This was what I was fretful about, but he still has that capacity to draw that performance from the group. That has always been his gift. And he had them ginned up for the occasion. They were ready for it, and their opponents, frankly, weren't. But it was more sophisticated than that as well. The Rosie moved to half-back, changed the dynamic of the middle, totally controlled the shape of the game from there, and got maximum impact for their domination. Yeah,
and the other sides will go to work on what they were able to do. I thought the boys caught it really well on Fox Footy. They're not strong ahead of the footy, Hawthorn. They're not. Maybe a child's their one tall target. So long down the line works for any opponent that you can. It's just been really hard to get them to go long down the line. But Ken did, and the boys did. They closed all the exits, didn't allow them the switch, didn't allow them the corridor. Long down the line suited Port Adelaide, and they were able to win the footy back. The other mob we'll get to in a minute, who were just lamentable, but all credit to them. As I said, Butters in the middle, Georgiades forward, Pepper does the job, Rosie off half-back. How do they allow that happen? This speaks to a bit of Hawthorn as well, but absolute full credit to them. And that puts everything, if that was in round 1 or round 2, that effort, you go, okay, this can work. Maybe it still can. I'm still doubtful, Gerard, but I love what I saw.
Their capacity to produce that performance, so they did it against Sydney last year, they do it against Hawthorn this year. So the Hawthorn side of it, the emotional intrigue was fascinating.
Do you think they got it? Do you think that was underplayed?
Yes. I think they spent so much effort trying to bury it that they didn't reach the same level as their opponents who had fully embraced it and utilised it.
Yeah, well, the best way to answer that is if it was played tonight, what would you see from them? And you wouldn't see the passive opening that you got. And again, I don't want to take anything from Port Adelaide, but they were lamentable, and it started for me with their captain. So the captain has to set the standard. He's the one that found himself in the middle of it. I'm thinking he's the one who's going to juice himself up here and get it sorted. And Pepper went to him, and he just had a blatant disregard. Look, point. What's that? That sends a message early in a game to the rest of the team to say, it's not my problem, or I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered doing what I need to do as a captain. And the ball goes back over his head, and his ball use was horrible. And then I thought the two recruits, Battle and Barris, were off early. Like their communication and their willingness to work hard just wasn't there. So Battle's playing 10 metres, 15 metres off. So that didn't work. And then you see this situation with Whattle. What's Whattle doing here? What does Whattle do? He runs straight past Georgiades, who's got some separation, and gets caught in no man's land. Now I could have, and the boys will do it on the couch, I'm sure. This is not our go, but I could have had 100 of them.
Yep.
So I'm not. This will be great for Sam Mitchell because that was appalling what they threw out. They didn't have a crack in the first half. They got bullied. They got pushed aside in the build-up of the week, of the year, of all of those. So this will be great, and the fact that they were able to recover and get to within 22 is even more reason why you'd look at it and go, that is a pathetic first half of footy, because we saw what they're capable of. They just didn't want to. They just didn't want to invest, and they looked at Port Adelaide and went, it's a bit hard. So James Sicily going, you get him, summed the whole half up. I'm the captain of the club, not my problem. Well, here's your problem. He went straight to you. And in the end, you had to get down the other end to get away from him. So, proud man, this is why it's not the end of the world. In fact, I think it's good for Hawthorn. James Sicily will respond against Geelong. It'll sharpen them all up. And I'll guarantee you, Gerard, I won't come back in here ever again if in the first 3 minutes of that game, James Sicily points at Oliver Henry, or whoever he's on, says someone else get him. It just won't happen. And then Port Adelaide had got to take advantage of this apathetic attitude, and they did it superbly. They were awesome.
The game's had a very odd postscript with Willie Rioli. So he had the moment where he showed the footy to CJ, and in the parry and thrust of the game, he's thinking, I don't know about that. It's much deeper seated than that from now a deleted Instagram post that Willie put up, where he spoke of his hatred for Hawthorn and how the club had treated his father and then his brother, who's Cyril in this instance.
Yeah.
So this is the sad toll of what's happened here is still very real for those at the coalface of it.
Yeah, and it's impossible for us, or for me, and for you, I imagine you, to comment on that. No one, I don't know how or why Willie has those thoughts. When I saw that for the first time, without knowing this on the background story, I just said, well, don't wait until the last minute of the game to do it. If you want to do it early. That was my initial thought, but clearly there's much deeper stuff at play here, and that's for Willie to have to deal with, and I'm sure he's got support around him and everything else. But I thought it was late in the game.
So not about these players, about the jumper that he saw in the way that he described it.